I'm here with Andrew Taylor. I first learned about him through the Ritual podcast, and he's kind of had an amazing year. And thanks so much, Andrew, for the time to chat with me. And maybe we could just start off with where you're from, a little bit about yourself, and kind of what you've been doing for the last year.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. It's always good to do these sort of interviews. It's my name's Andrew. I'm 36. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and people have been interested in what I've been doing this year because I've nearly finished an entire year of eating nothing but potatoes. So it's been a big, weird, crazy year.
That's awesome. And I think at the beginning of this, you started out at 334 pounds or 151 kilos. How much weight have you lost over the last year?
As of about nearly a month ago was the last time I weighed myself, and I had lost 52 kilos, which I think that's around 115 pounds or something. So, quite a bit. Yeah, about weight loss, though, to begin with, it was just about trying to change my relationship with food, and the weight loss is really just a welcome side effect to the whole experiment.
Yeah, I think you said that you struggle with weight, for a long time since you were, a bit younger. Can you kind of take me through that and maybe where some of those bad relationships with food initially developed?
I don't know if I can really pinpoint where the bad relationship with food actually came from. It's just, I guess it was probably, I just enjoyed eating all these, delicious junk foods that, they trigger pleasure centers in your brain, and there's a party in your mouth and all that. And at some point, I guess it just got out of hand. And so that's all it's been. I don't think there's really been an event or a specific set of circumstances that kicked all this off. It was just probably just a gradual thing. And I've struggled with my weight since as long as I can remember. And I was an elite junior kayaker, one of the better kayakers in Australia as a junior, and even then I was still always 5 to 10 kilos, 10 to 20 pounds overweight, and it was probably, looking back, it was the difference between being one of the better kayakers in Australia and maybe one of the better junior kayakers in the world if I was able to control my weight properly. But if I knew then what I know now. But anyway, it's all speculation. But yeah, it's always been a struggle until this year. So yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously this year has been a big turning point for you. Were there kind of a series of events, or was there any real big thing that happened that made you decide that put you on the path to making the decision?
Yeah, well, at the end of probably about mid-November last year, I just remember I was just sitting on the couch at home, and I was following like yet another failed attempt at getting healthy and losing weight, and I'd done a couple of months of good eating, and then another night where I thought, I could just have one slice of pizza tonight and it'll be okay, and I'll get back on my diet tomorrow, and one slice of pizza won't hurt. And sure enough, like every other time in my life, I ended up eating the whole pizza and followed it up with some ice cream and Coca-Cola as well, and it was just another big binge night. So I was just feeling sorry for myself the next day, and just feeling like I was a failure, and wondering why I couldn't do this moderation thing that everyone seems to push, that everything in moderation all the time. And I was just angry with myself for not being able to make that work. And while I was sitting on the couch there, it struck me how similar my behaviour with food was to that of an alcoholic with alcohol. So everyone's heard stories of an alcoholic who can quit alcohol for a period of time and then think, one beer will be okay, and I'll just have one beer and then I'll go home. And sure enough, one beer turns into 15 beers, and they'll end up wake up in a pool of their own vomit and no idea how they got there. And it just struck me how similar my behaviour was with food. So then the next logical step for me was that if the best thing an alcoholic can do is to quit alcohol, then why can't we quit food? And obviously we can't just quit food. You got to eat. So I thought, well, maybe I could find one single food that would keep me healthy and quit everything else, and thereby try to treat my food addiction in as close as possible a way as to how an alcoholic treats alcohol addiction. So there you go. And so I did a lot of research, and potatoes was the one. So here we are.
Had you ever thought about your relationship with food as an addiction, or was that kind of your light bulb moment?
Yeah, that was a light bulb moment. I hadn't thought of it as an addiction before. I just thought of it as, I just, everything in moderation. I've just got to get a handle on this moderation thing because that's where it's at. And of course, I disagree with that idea these days. I think, moderation is not all we're led to believe it is. So, but yeah, that was a light bulb moment, the realization that I had an addiction problem, and then that led me down the path to how do we treat addictions.
And then I know that I think I saw somewhere that you're a father. Was there anything about your relationship as being a dad or being a husband that had caused any concerns about your health, or your health had caused concerns for in the past?
Yeah, well, I'm a teacher as well, and I've got a little 3-year-old boy. At the time, he was 2, just turned 2, and as a teacher, I know that I always, anytime you're wondering about a kid or a student that you're teaching, you're wondering how they got to be the way they are. It all becomes clear when you meet the parents. Every time, they're always like the parents. So, I was, that was a big thing for me because I didn't want my boy to turn out the way I was. I was depressed, and I was clinically depressed and suffering with anxiety, and I was overweight and unhealthy and unhappy, and I knew from experience with my teaching that if my life continued down that road, then that's what my boy would become too, more than likely. So, I needed to do something about my own health as much to make sure that I changed the path that my boy would be on.
And then I know you started day one with a video. Did you have any intention of that becoming a daily or weekly kind of log, or was that something you intended to keep private? And kind of where was your head at with all that?
That was when I started. My wife was supportive, and she was happy for me to do it. And one of her suggestions was that she thought it would be a good idea for me to write a journal, and just to record my thoughts and what happens over the year. And I said to her that I've tried writing a journal lots of times in the past, and it's always been unsuccessful. I've never been able to stick to writing a journal, and I just didn't feel confident that I'd be able to do that. So then she said, well, instead of that, maybe you could just get your phone out each day and just record your thoughts and record your experiences at the end of each day, and just talk about it. And I thought, well, that's an easier idea. I could probably do that, but pretty soon I'm going to run out of room to store all those videos. So she said, well, why don't you put them on YouTube then, and then you don't have to worry about storing them anywhere. So I thought, yeah, okay, maybe I'll do that then. And so I did, and it wasn't something I ever planned on sharing. It was just I needed somewhere to put my videos, so I wouldn't run out of space. But I didn't publicize anything, and I didn't even really tell anyone except for my very close, my close family and 1 or 2 friends, and that was it. So I wasn't keeping it a secret. It was on YouTube, so I wasn't telling anyone about it. And it ended up being found. But at the end of January, I probably had 50 views in total, and then it went crazy viral at the beginning of February.
Wow, that's nuts. I think in that first video you say that food takes up a bit of space in your mind, and you were hoping to free up some of that space and your life to include some more positive things. Looking back, do you think you've been able to accomplish that? And maybe you can kind of elaborate on how you've maybe been able to accomplish that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a totally different person now than what I was. I'm happier. I'm healthier. I don't suffer with depression, anxiety anymore. As far as freeing up space for other things in life, I think really just this whole experience has been what's taken up the space in my mind, because since this has all gone viral, I've just spent a lot of my time on emails and social media, answering questions and trying to help other people with their own problems. And I've written a book, and I've got an online group that people are in that trying to deal with their own food addictions. And I've also been exercising a lot, and just because I enjoy exercising, and I'm getting back into kayaking, as I talked about earlier. I'm getting back into that and enjoying it, and I spend more time playing with my little boy, and more time joking with my wife and things like that. It's just a lot of different things that I'm doing that take up a little bit of space each in my mind. But I think freeing up space in my mind and not having the huge focus on food that I had before has been really a really good thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know the physical aspect is pretty obvious. You're a lot slimmer.
Yeah.
You weigh less. I'm curious about the depression and the anxiety, because it sounds like that's something that had been present in your life for a while. How has that changed? How long did that kind of take to change? And were you even remotely anticipating that?
Yeah, well, I was diagnosed early last year, but in hindsight, it was probably going on for a year or two before that. It was a real struggle. My outlook on life was very bleak at this time last year. And it's not something that I thought would be. It's not something I thought would be fixed by doing this. It's just that was a very unexpected but welcome side effect. It probably took, I reckon, 2 to 3 weeks. I noticed a difference, because I was, most days of my life I would at some point cry for no particular reason. I'd just be crying, and that would happen nearly every day. And probably, I think 2 to 3 weeks in, I noticed that it had been a few days since that had happened, and then I don't think I've had a bad day in a long time. And so I think it was maybe 2, maybe 3 months, and then I started thinking that I really haven't suffered. I haven't cried. I haven't had a really, really down in the dumps kind of day for a long time. And then, it's the end of the year now, and I still have. Everyone has bad days from time to time, but they're not like. It's not, one of those really desperately low kind of days where, you feel like you're just entrenched in sadness that's never going to leave your body. That doesn't happen anymore. You have down days, and it's just a down day, and you understand that it's going to pass, and everything's good. And one thing I've learned since I realised that my depression was basically gone, I started researching about whether there could be a relationship to diet, and it turns out that when we treat depression with drugs, we use something called serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And what that does is, I'm not going to go too deeply into the science, maybe partly because I don't understand it well enough myself, but basically it deals with the serotonin production in your brain, which is one of the happy hormones that we produce. And in your brain produces something like 10% of your body's serotonin, while your gut produces the other 90%. So the drugs that you prescribe for depression only work on 10% of your production, whereas the potatoes that I was eating worked on creating a really good environment in the gut to produce good serotonin levels. So it turns out that there's a good science behind eating potatoes or just healthy whole plant foods for producing good, healthy, happy hormones in the body, and that's what I've done.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Is there anything that you've learned about yourself in the last year that surprised you, that maybe you didn't have space for before, or that you've done that just wasn't there before?
Just the amount of help I've been able to give other people is a big thing that yeah, I guess I never saw that coming, and I never expected that it would be something I'd be good at. Is trying to coach people through the process of trying to do what I've done, which is change the relationships with food. And I guess I didn't understand that I'd be good at communicating these sorts of things. And a lot of people like my YouTube videos, and they like my ideas and the things I share. And I've written some blog posts that have resonated with a lot of people, and I've written my book, and that's again, that's resonated with a lot of people. And these the way to communicate what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling, and using that to try to help other people is, that's an unexpected thing that I'm pretty happy about. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So, in that vein, if there's somebody out there who's listening to this, who's trying to get, trying to change that relationship with food, trying to get healthy, all those kinds of things, what words of encouragement would you give to that person?
Just number one is, I think it's important to understand that everything you need for success is already within you. You just need to find a way to unlock it. That's all. And that's what I've done. I guess the real me that's been allowed out now is it was always there. Everything was already there. It's not like I've found some new talent or skill that didn't exist before. It was already there. I've just put in the effort to make sure they come out. And I guess 90% of or more of success is just repeating the positive actions over and over and over again. So it's not, eating potatoes for a meal is not a big deal, but eating them for every meal over a course of a whole year, then it becomes something big. And it's just more. It's small actions repeated over and over and over and over again, and that's when you get big improvements. And so I think that's the big thing. Just embrace those small actions and trust the process, and just keep showing up and doing what needs to be done.
That's great. And then I know, it might be hard to imagine, but if you could go back in time and give some words of encouragement or something that would have resonated with yourself a year ago from now, whenever you were maybe in that dark place, is there anything you think from what you've learned during this time that maybe you could have told yourself at that point or even before then?
Yeah, I think so. I think that a really big thing for me is just been, people use food for emotional support and enjoyment and comfort and things like that. And people want every meal to be a gourmet experience, and people want every meal to be this great event. And it just doesn't have to be that way. You can just embrace the simplicity of just eating potatoes or eating whatever it is that you want to eat, but just embrace the simplicity of a good healthy diet. And you don't need to get that enjoyment, comfort, emotional support from food. You can find it in other areas of life. And I've got a saying that I've developed recently. It goes, make your food boring and your life interesting. So you don't need there's plenty of things you can do in your life to get that serotonin boost, the dopamine boost, the pleasure responses and things like that. It doesn't have to come from food. So I guess that's the number one thing. Let's take the focus off food and put it on to enjoying life.
That's great. And I'm curious, as you said, you're a food addict, and you've made references to alcohol and other addictions. My guess is that maybe you always will view yourself as a food addict. Looking forward and what you've learned, what are you planning to kind of put in place to ensure your success for the future?
I plan on, as of next week, following a whole food plant-based diet, and that's a really important thing, because the foods that are addictive to people are foods that are very high in energy density. So high energy density foods are things like oils. So I won't be eating any olive oil or coconut oil. I won't be eating any processed sugars, like table sugar, things like that, because there's a high energy density foods. I won't be eating any meat or cheese or cream or any dairy products. And I won't be eating any eggs, because they're all very high energy dense foods, which are they're addictive in their nature. So by avoiding those foods, I will be not triggering that addictive response in my brain, and so that's a big thing. But also just to keep just to keep the mindfulness habits that I've just to keep those things going with food, and just it's a daily practice, I think, just to keep mindful of getting my entertainment and enjoyment and emotional support from other areas of life, and yeah, just to keep on top of it that way. I've got a poem that I've read nearly every day this year called "If" by Rudyard Kipling, and I plan on I'll just continue reading that most days as well, because that's something that helps me keep perspective on my life and keep focus on what's important, and keep helps to deal with the issues that life throws up. It helps to put them in perspective too, and stop me from turning to unhealthy habits to deal with anything that comes up. So I'll keep doing that, and I'll keep exercising and doing all sorts of things that keep me happy. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'll check out the poem. And lastly, where can people find out more about you and connect with you?
My potatoes have just turned up, so I'll get into them in a minute. But yeah, if people want to find out more about me and what I'm doing, then spudfit is where I'm at, and Spud Fit on all the social medias as well: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Some of them I'm more active on than others, but yeah, I guess spudfit.com is the place to start.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, enjoy your potatoes, and congratulations on everything, and thanks for the inspiration and sharing your story with me.
Thank you for having me, and spud up, everyone.
Have a great day.